focus on for this session is monetization. Right, at the end of the day, you can have the best content in the world, but if you're not making money, it's not going to last too long. Good news is it looks like a lot of the indicators are we're coming out of the storm and we're getting announcements about streaming being profitable. Good job, everybody, right? I'm not allowed to talk about any specific earnings releases or anything, but it looks like we're in good shape here. So let's get started. I'm going to start with quick introductions. I'm Brian Mahoney. I'm the president of the OTT Executive Community, which is a group of about 50,000 leaders in the industry, really globally, across all the different media properties. I'm also the CEO of Flippin' TV, and that's the media arm for the Freestyle Trampoline Association. So my job is to put up this brand new sport. It's actually not new, it's just the media part is new. So if anybody knows anything about launching sports, distribution, production, anything, please, I'm all ears. And I'm the CRO for Sparks Technology, which is an engagement platform. So it uses QR codes to turn your L bar and second screen into ad inventory, essentially, and engagement. So that's me. I'm going to let our esteemed panel of speakers introduce themselves. And we'll start from the left right here with Evan.
Hey everybody, I'm Evan Bregman. I lead streaming and direct-to-consumer for Tastemade. Tastemade is the most distributed streaming lifestyle network in the US. We've got 4 different channels on food, travel, home and design, and then Tastemade en Español. We're on all the major FAST platforms and almost all the major MVPDs as well. And as of about recently, we are now part of Wonder, a food tech company based in New York.
Awesome, fantastic. Patrick.
Patrick Courtney, Chief Business Officer for Fuse Media. We're a Latino-owned entertainment company. We have 2 pay TV networks, half a dozen owned and operated FAST channels, a subscription service, and a curated multicultural audience ad solution for CTV called Culture Collective, which Tastemade is part of.
That's great, awesome. Daniel.
Hey guys, Daniel Gagliardi, EVP of Global Streaming Distribution and Strategy at FilmRise. FilmRise is the largest independent provider of content to streaming services globally. We have 8,000 titles that comprise over 20,000 assets, so film and TV episodes combined. We have over 100 channels that we distribute to dozens of partners in dozens of countries. Yeah, and that's it. That's FilmRise.
Welcome, Tom.
Awesome. My name is Tom Horahan. I work on the Google Ad Manager team, helping partners on CTV get the full breadth of monetization. Whether they're using us as an ad server, an SSP, whatever module they want to use, we're here to help.
Awesome, welcome. And last but not least, Ingrid.
I'm Ingrid Mariotti. I'm Director of Business Development at Wurl. We work with streaming partners as well as content company powering billions of hours of streaming across all CTV platforms on the globe.
Billions.
Billions of hours.
That's a lot of hours.
Yeah, on
okay, that's great.
A monthly basis, yeah.
Well, fantastic. Do you all agree we have a really good representative group here to tackle this topic down to the ground here on monetization? So thank you all for joining us and carving out the time. So we're going to cover a few different topics here. I'll just give you a heads up. We're going to talk about programming and content. We're going to talk about ad tech and innovation, obviously. AI, can't escape without talking about AI. And then I got a couple wild cards thrown in there. But let's just start in general, and we'll start with you, Evan. What are you seeing from where you're sitting right now? You know, what are the key challenges right now when it comes to monetization? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think, look, we're still in an atmosphere where the basic economics of this make it a pretty challenging environment. There's a lot of supply, and demand is slowly making its way into this marketplace, but it's unclear if that balance is ever really going to return. So that I think is sort of the defining challenge of our time. And it's exacerbated by the fact that, you know, as Tastemade's engagement goes up, as a platform's engagement goes up, you experience that problem at a micro level as well, right? You've got to find demand to be able to hit that supply, which at the end of the day means a couple different things. At a high level, you got to find a way to get your supply to stand out compared to other people's supply. And by other people's, I mean not just other programmers, but also other platforms as well.
And define supply in your
Yeah, ad inventory, okay. Right? So, you know, we generate another hour of viewing that generates more impressions that I now need to go out and monetize.
Okay, great. So we have an embarrassment of riches when it comes to content. We just got to match the money, the monetization to go with that content. Patrick, what do you think? What's the take on where we are right now?
Yeah, I would agree with Evan. I think dollars are moving from traditional television to CTV, but it's not moving as fast as the audience is. And so you have this supply-demand imbalance. And I think another challenge on top of that is how advertising is traded. Something in like traditional TV, which is bought and sold on Nielsen ratings, and it's a very different type of sell than streaming, which tends to be a lot more like, looks like digital media. And so as you're selling, like in our position where we're selling both of those things out in the marketplace with like our CRO is somewhere here, Jim Keller's, just out hitting all of these, educating, and how do you buy CTV? Because that's still, I think, a fairly nascent thing that agencies and brands are still warming up to and understanding how to do it. And especially those that have traditionally bought linear television and now are looking at CTV as a viable opportunity.
So interesting, because I'm hearing two different things here. One, I'm hearing some structural things that still have to get figured out, but I'm also hearing a little bit transitional things, like we're sort of in the awkward teenage years, and we're just kind of going down that path, and maybe it'll just kind of work its way out. What do you think, Daniel? Where do you?
Yeah, I mean, I'm in agreement with these guys, what they've already said. I think there's this dislocation in the market where supply has come on, right? The money was not going to sit on the table and just wait for the supply to show up, right? Because if it didn't show up, it's inefficient, it's a waste. The supply kind of always has to front load things. I'm less doom or gloom than most people, which is unusual for me. For people that know me, I tend to be quite doom and gloomy. I look to the past to find the future, and I think if you look at cable television, it's a little bit before my time, but I would imagine all these channels were coming on and people were panicking and saying, how are we going to fill this inventory? It got figured out. A wonderful company called Google bought YouTube. People were wondering how they were going to figure it out. They figured it out and seemed to make a lot of money. I think it's like $1 billion a quarter in revenue or something now, whatever it is, probably $6 billion. I'm off by a couple billion. You look at Facebook, now Meta, how are they going to make money? They have all figured out how to make money. My job right now, and as leader of the distribution team for streaming, is to drive that inventory up and create some stored value that will be unlocked, and it will be unlocked. I have no doubt that will happen.
Okay, so that's a great setup for Tom. So Tom, are you guys making money at Google?
We do, yeah.
Yeah, okay, all right, good.
I mean, the good thing about us and in my division is we make money when the partners make money. It's the base of our business is that we're in a partnership together. If the pie doesn't grow, we don't get revenue. So I like to think of it that we're in the same game and we're really trying to expand. And going to your question, like when I got hired at Google, it was 14 years ago, so a long time ago, I was very clear with the hiring manager that I'm not a tech guy. I'm a people person. And he's like, you just need to know enough to be dangerous, right? Knowing enough to be dangerous in today's world, you have to know like a Bible, this big of things because there's so many points of failure, right? There's different platforms that have different policies. There's buy side signals there's so many things that have to work well for the ad to turn into revenue, right?
Okay.
And I think that's fixable, and that's what gets me excited. As I said, we work with partners, and their problems become our opportunities. And so I'm bullish that we're going to be able to solve a lot of that. Historically, whether it's newspapers, radio, the revenue follows the eyeballs, and the eyeballs are certainly here.
So interesting. So you're taking it up a level. You're really talking about the ecosystem, right? It's not just this point in time, point organization. It's how do all boats rise? And from Ingrid, from a Wurl perspective, you also think about this in terms of an ecosystem.
Absolutely. Like you said, our partners' problems are our challenges and opportunities. And agreeing with what these gentlemen have said, what we're seeing though in those that are winning are those that are innovating, right? We have to have great content, streaming, and ad experiences. For example, we've just recently partnered with Transmit Live, who are doing really cool things in the ad space. So they're taking in-stream ad units and creating things like in picture-in-picture, L-bars, overlays. And while that does represent more supply, it's working because it's premium. You're capturing the audience while they're engaged in the content without being disruptive, and it's customizable, so they're able to meet the needs of both the advertiser, the user, and the content.
Yeah, I want to get into some of those more engaging type of, you mentioned L-bar and stuff. That'll be in a little bit, because I think that's really interesting. And there's a lot of promise there. But let's switch gears a little bit. Let's talk about programming and content. And I'll throw this out to Evan and Tom first. And you guys can jump in and decide who goes. But what does the future hold for fast monetization as content libraries expand and have to compete for that ad inventory spread across many channels? We talked about this transition. You've got traditional broadcast and cable. You've got digital. those two worlds kind of colliding from a brand and from an advertiser and a sponsor and an agency perspective, it's all different ways to reach the consumers and get the eyeballs that you want. How do you want to respond to that? Who wants to go first?
Yeah, I can start. I think it comes down to measurable ROI, right? And there's actually, again, not to be overly optimistic, but I am bullish that this can work out really well because 72% is a number I think is probably low. People are watching a second screen while they're doing it, whether they're surfing the internet, whether they're searching, whether they're shopping, whether they're betting like I do while my wife watches something that I don't want to watch. Like, there's a great opportunity there to prove ROI if you have the right data and the right signals. Secondarily, and I think Evan made this point a little bit, we're building out a team to help with discoverability, right? I think there's AI and there's the data, which is going to be needed, right, to prove reportable outcomes to buyers and marketers. But there's also, we all need to work together to ensure that this premium inventory is getting in front of the buyers and that they're aware that it exists. And if there's packages that exist that are already, people want to spend money. I think that's the gist here. And we built out a team, and a demand facilitation team at Google, that sole purpose is to try to take a third-party inventory that is non-Google O&O and monetize that via expanding packages through something we called marketplace packages. So we're leaning in, we're investing, and we're excited about it.
Yeah, as time approaches infinity, you got to imagine that the dynamic is fundamentally going to, the business dynamic is fundamentally going to shift with regards to windowing. So right now, one of the reasons that Tastemade is differentiated in this marketplace is because we have always treated our fast and linear channels as our very first window. More than 2/3 of what we put on the air is original and exclusive to us. And it is, some of the biggest chefs in the world, Jamie Oliver, Andrew Zimmern, you name it. We've treated this like traditional media used to treat cable. For the most part, AVOD and FAST today is viewed as sort of the last stop on the windowing train. It's Warner is only putting things up on YouTube AVOD when they can't sell it anywhere else. Things are being packaged into fast channels because they are not able to get upfront fees anymore for those titles, and so they're setting it up as an annuity. But as time goes on, you got to imagine that certainly as YouTube continues to grow, and as this space continues to become sort of the default thing that people do on their televisions, which it will be, right? If it isn't already for a lot of households, it certainly isn't mine. It's going to be the way that media companies can actually get solid exposure for these titles, and there won't necessarily be as many options to get those upfront license fees that currently are kind of locking in the traditional windowing model.
Yep.
And so over time, there's going to be this sort of premium layer of content that's probably not nearly as old as a lot of fast channels and a lot of AVOD selections are right now, and that's just going to fundamentally change the advertising dynamic as well.
Yeah, for sure. Danny, I want to go back to you, just a little bit of a different slant on the same question. But if you think about your CTV monetization strategy, how is that shaped by your content partners? And specifically what I'm thinking is there an overarching strategy that guides all of it, or is it more nuanced by your content library? And are there specific things niche and underserved content players can do to differentiate their inventory to capture the audience and advertiser attention? I know it's a lot, it's a mouthful.
It's a lot there, yeah.
In 30 seconds or less.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
I would just add on to, I guess, some of the things I already said here, which is I disagree a little bit in the idea that you're targeting content. I think you were targeting people and you were targeting time. At the end of the day, we all have 24 hours in the day, and that time is worth something to advertisers, right? And I think that's what you were targeting. And if they want to watch a TikTok video, or they want to watch Unsolved Mysteries, which is a FilmRise channel, or Hell's Kitchen, which is a FilmRise channel, I'll just do some shameless plugs. I think that time has value, right? So I think there's an element there that needs to be unpacked. I think at the end of the day, the people at this conference and the people on the stage here are going to solve this problem, but the drivers of it are going to be the people spending the money, and they are going to demand better information. They are going to demand things that we are going to have to answer to get those dollars.
Yeah.
As far as FilmRise goes, again, we're collecting broad audience to the best of our ability. We work with partners to fill audience holes when they have it. they come to us and they say, we want to target, Gen Z, right? We want to compete with TikTok. Sure, we have a creator program. We've gone out, we've gotten several dozen creators at this point. We have stitched their content together into traditional 22-minute episodes. We play that on linear television or on AVOD, on fast channels or AVOD, and try to tap into that market at the request of our partners, but also at our own desire to kind of have a holistic approach to the market and capture all the demos.
Okay. So maybe we can get a little more specific. Ingrid, maybe you can do this for us. Is, if you think about ways publishers and streamers are differentiating their content, what ways can you drive discovery and capture audience and advertiser attention? Any specific examples you can give?
Yeah, we're really focused on short form video right now, not only as a format, but also as a way to drive more engagement on CTV. So the idea is that this is beneficial for publishers of short form content, but also those that want to strategically leverage short form as a bridge for audiences to discover longer formats where they might have not found it otherwise. The key really is to meet the viewers where they are, and that increasingly means scrollable, snackable, short form type content, but for the living room. As Dave mentioned in his keynote earlier today, YouTube is seeing great success on CTV, which clearly indicates to us that the lines have been blurred between native mobile viewership and living room viewership. So there's great opportunities for us to drive engagement, build audiences with short form.
Okay, that's helpful. And Patrick, just again, another sort of slant on the same line of questioning. If you think about programming and monetization strategies and ad sales, what role, where is the opportunity really for metadata and, kind of adding into that information that, sort of decorates that programming and that content to improve your fill rates?
Yeah, I'd say back the way that ad dollars are traded in digital media, more and more of it's becoming automated. It's becoming programmatically traded, and it's being done by bots. So they're looking at a bid request, and they're looking at everything that's in it, and then deciding whether or not this ad should go here, or this other thing. And they're looking for the right ad at the right time, and that's why a lot of that stuff's also moving more towards performance based, is they're trying to get that person right when they want. And in order to do that effectively, you got to have a bid request that's got all of that information in it to be able to successfully fill that or have a higher rate of success. And I think there's still quite a few challenges between programmers and platforms as to how much data will be granted as to what can get passed. So you're having variable success rates across these different platforms. But I think that is like in a world where we're getting more data driven, and things are being, decision making is happening by robots essentially, you have to have a very data rich environment.
Right,
and I think
data feeds the robots.
Yeah, and I think we're still pretty early on that. There's still platforms that won't give us title level data. Like a bid request comes in and it doesn't show you what show is actually playing. And an advertiser might want to know that, right? They want to know if they're against a studio movie or something else, and that's important to some advertisers. So you're going to lose when you don't have that information. So in continuing to enrich the stream with data is going to continue to be important as more and more advertising becomes programmatically traded.
So back to the first question we had, is that a structural problem, or is that just a transitionary, the fact that you don't have all that data that you need? Is that something that's easily fixable, or there's some policy or structural level sort of gaps?
We have 16 minutes left. So. It's a very there's a lot of again going back to traditional. There's a lot of content libraries that just have zero metadata. And so you have to you have teams of people and services that are just enriching metadata for content and getting that in there. But then it's the partnership between where the endpoints, the distribution platforms, and then what's getting passed back in those bid requests, and that's becomes there's what we hear. Privacy concerns about that. There's just security. So
it's a mix of structural things.
There's competition in the marketplace as to how people want to be able to sell. There's variable challenges there. We think that the more rich the data can be across all partners, the more we'll be able to start to improve monetization, particularly in FAST, because I think there's a lot of folks here, maybe even that run FAST channels, and they're kind of like, this isn't looking that great, fill rates at 30-40%, and CPMs are in decline, and it's like, well, this we were promised that this was going to be, a big moneymaker in ad sales, and we're not seeing it.
Right.
And it's because of things like this that we need to work on.
But fundamentally, fundamentally today, right? Yes, there are some structural issues with like the quality of libraries and stuff like that. But most of what you just talked about are business decisions that are made by companies saying, "Well, no, we've got a walled garden, so we're not going to share this data with you, even though we've agreed to have an inventory shared with you or agreed to allow you to sell backfill. We're going to fundamentally handicap you," as though we as programmers are in competition with the distributors that we distribute on to be able to sell these things. When in reality, all boats rise with the tide. To your point, it increases monetization overall. It gets more money into the pie. And realistically, who are we actually competing against? We're competing against the largest advertising companies in the history of mankind.
Absolutely, and that's partially why, like Fuse and Tastemade and with Lionsgate and Trusted Media Brands.
You guys are friends,
Heartbeat.
right?
We are. We are.
Okay.
We're very
I think
close.
we're all friends.
We're all friends.
We're all friends here.
I want to make sure, just to be clear.
I do think there is like a little element to what I was going before, though, of a user's time is worth something, whether they watch a cat video or whether they watch Moana, right?
Yeah.
And I do think there's an element of like, do we really want people only buying, studio movies with ad dollars, right? Is that a good outcome for this business again, or is it a good outcome for users, or what does that mean, right? And I think that needs to be unpacked. But I think if I'm an advertiser, I want to connect with the people, regardless, the people that I want to reach, regardless of what they're watching, right? And I think maybe that adds a complicated layer of like, I want to be on this movie or that movie, right? I could see there being maybe tiers of this is, professional production and non-professional production, but I think if we get down to the granularity level of by the title, it might get real complicated.
Yeah, and we got to move on, but I agree. There's a balance here. I think some of the content tagging at the ingest point, that's going to happen. We're going to get more data there. The bots will help us with that. Some of the other things, privacy and so on, we still got some work to do as an industry. Before we move on to the next section, which is ad tech and innovation, any questions in the audience? We kind of covered a lot of ground here, primarily around content and programming. Any questions in the audience? Any burning questions? No? Okay. Let's move on then. So let's talk about ad tech innovation. Tom, you know something about ad tech, I think.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
14 years, yeah.
Where do you see any recent innovations? What do you see happening right now in the CTV FAST ecosystem?
Yeah, and I talked in the first question about points of failure, and I'm kind of obsessed with that because to me that's just money that's wasted if we have a creative that fails or if there's a signal misalignment or something. And for Google specifically, we've recently rolled out a feature called server-side unwinding, where we are fetching vast requests in advance of ad selection. Okay. So what that does, it allows us to send full pods of inventory that we know are going to render. And so all the creative level errors that we've seen, low render rates, it's really improved it. We've actually rolled out today a round of reporting that shows less latency, more ad dollars. So this is a fundamental shift in some of the ways that tech works. But you think about the scale of FAST and CTV. If you can improve a couple percentage points, that makes a big difference.
It does.
So I think the ad tech and finding ways to solve problems where there's friction today, and that's one that I'm excited about. It's rolling out in beta, but will be out for wider use later this year.
So it's both a latency and an error, corrections.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Like the reason latency is lower is because the creatives are all there. There's no one fetching the creative at that point. And again, I am a people person. It's a little in the weeds, but like that happening before ad selection happens really increases the ability to drive results.
You're not fooling me, Tom. You're a techie.
I'm not. I swear to God.
no.
You should see me with people.
Okay. So Patrick, back to you. We talk about as advertising continues, more and more automation, more precision targeting. What can programmers do to better capture ad dollars? And some follow-on questions to that.
Part of it is like if things become more programmatically traded, it's more precision targeting. Advertisers are looking for more opportunities, and so that translates to they need scale. They want to see lots of impressions and be able to deliver on these campaigns that are hyper targeted. And if you're an independent programmer, your one channel is probably not scaled enough where it's going to be appealing to that kind of transactional media dollars, which is why we launched Culture Collective and added some of partners like